Hello, Dom here, CEO and Product Manager of Chuffed Solutions. And in this video, I'm going to talk about scoping work. That is, what do you write in a ticket or an issue or a tasks? Basically, what you write down to give to designers, engineers, UX people and other stakeholders, so they know what to build and what to do. Now, I've spoken to a lot of people recently about the job that I do. They're interested in getting into this field. And when I did this course and when they're doing their courses, there is a huge lack in actually communicating how do you do your day-to-day. And a lot of that is scoping things and kind of talking to people and insights you have and formulating ideas around it. That communication piece is really important. Without it, people can often find themselves a little bit lost or not sure what to build. And so I thought I'd do a video to explain how I do it, not necessarily the only way of doing it, but just one way that you can do it. By all means, look at how other people scope and what they can bring to the table. Now, what I'm going to talk about is a project I'm actually rebuilding. It's something I've worked on before and I created, and I'm in the process of redoing it. Now, I wanted to talk about this because I will be building it in Flutter and using Firebase, because if you look at my previous videos, this is something I'm learning and it gives me an opportunity to test those skills out and try it out in the real world. But rather than just do a video explaining it, I thought I'll go through the scoping, and then that way that will explain it to you. That's essentially what scoping is, explaining what it is and why you're doing it and how you're going to get there. So I'm going to go through section by section on this scoping, talk a little bit about it, talk about what I've got in here, and then hopefully that will help you in your scoping. Now, you can go find this page at chuffeddom.com, which is the blog post, Project Weeknotes version 2 in Flutter and Firebase. That's the link there for my website, and I will stick it down in the description as well. At the top, every piece of work I do, at the top, I have purpose and vision. And the questions that you're going to ask here are basically, why does this need to exist? Or why should this be built? And what does it look like after we've built this thing? What is the inevitable sort of end goal to this? Very top level, don't get into details. It's trying to kind of capture very quickly in 2 or 3 sentences what this whole thing is. For Project Weeknotes, the aim is to build a place for me to personally develop by reflecting and sharing. That's the purpose, and the vision is to make personal growth easy as writing an email by prompting one to reflect on the week just gone, plan the week ahead, and be accountable by sharing with others. So kind of similar words going on there, but it sort of explains why am I building this? To give myself somewhere where I can get that reflection and accountability and planning. And what this looks like is a way for me to kind of do those things, share it, do it super easy, no complicated, UI or anything. Go in, write it, job done kind of thing. Now, the next section is goals. Now, goals I write from the perspective of myself. If you're on a team, then it would be from the perspective of the team. If it's for the company, the perspective of the company. Equally, it can be all three, right? And to write a goal, you want to write down something that you're trying to achieve and a reason why you want to achieve that thing. Again, a good question to ask here is, what is it that we're hoping to have after we do this that we don't have today? Now, in my goals for Project Weeknotes, as someone who wants to develop personally, I need a way to reflect and plan once a week to improve continuously. It's a very clear goal. This is the thing that I'm really after, and something that's been really helpful in the first year of my company is doing that. As someone who wants to personally develop, I want to reflect on the previous 5 weeks to see how far I've come so I can feel motivated in overwhelming times. Now, this is a thing that I find quite frequent. It's not only looking at the past week, but sometimes taking the whole month or maybe 6 weeks and seeing how long that journey, where was I at this beginning of the journey? Where am I now? And as someone who reflects on the week just past, I want to share that with others to have some form of accountability regarding my progress. This, again, is a really clear goal for me. And that accountability piece is really important. And also the feedback as well is really useful. Being able to sort of say, you know what, I'm planning to do this. And someone can say, oh, have you thought about this kind of thing? So the next section, and I would argue the most important section, especially for a product manager, and that is, what problems are you trying to solve? Now, writing a good problem statement takes practice. You really want to focus in on what is it people are trying to do, what are their barriers, why do those barriers exist, really importantly, how do people feel when they experience those barriers? That's the piece where you're empathizing with a person, trying to achieve something. And it does take practice. One product manager gave me a great piece of advice, which is whenever you find a struggle in your day-to-day or a challenge or whatever, just write a problem statement. You're not looking to solve it. You're not looking to do anything with it. Just write down a problem statement. It just gets you into that practice of seeing the world in that way. So, Project Weeknotes. Problem number 1, as someone who wants to develop personally, reflect on what I have managed to achieve, also where I've fallen short, and what I've learned along the way is vital to working towards a better me. So that's what I'm trying to do. But I find it hard to bring people in to advise, hold me accountable, because lengthy text messages and emails may go unread and interdispersed with day-to-day conversation. This makes me feel I'm alone in my journey. So when I started kind of reflecting and stuff, I would reach out to people and talk to them. But very often what I found was that it was difficult to, have that conversation. And it would get mixed in too much of the noise. So I wasn't really getting out what I wanted to get out of it. Second problem, as a person who wants to develop personally, I want to be aware of my successes and wins, so I know I am becoming a better person. That's what I'm trying to achieve. But I find that it is easy to forget where I have achieved success, as the noise of the day-to-day can get lost. And also the negatives garner more attention and therefore overshadow the positives. To paraphrase that, it's, you kind of end your week and you kind of think about the things you haven't done, where you haven't really, you need to spend the time to think about the things you have done. It helps you personally grow to know that you have got progress, rather than it being, every 3-6 months, every week you have to be aware of those things. It helps you move you forward and gives you that motivation. But it's easy to feel that, and therefore I often feel I am underachieving and not working towards a better me. That's a definite way that I felt, was I wasn't given that opportunity. I wasn't given the space to sort of reflect on things and really get anywhere with it. Number 3, as a person who has people close to me, who is on a personal development journey, I want to know what they've been up to so I can offer encouragement and support. This is from the perspective of the reader. As somebody who has somebody who is personally developing, right? So somebody who's reading this and going through those pieces, they want to kind of do those little bits. That's what they're trying to achieve, is to kind of advise and support and help out where they can. But catching up can be sparse and vague, as times to talk about the journey can happen every so often. We've all experienced this, right? You kind of go around and someone says, how things going, how's business? And you just look at your feet and just say busy. It's so easy, but you don't get into the details and the minutiae of all these little things, which are really important. So I then feel I cannot help or support where is needed for people I care about, and worry that they're not moving along that they should do. And this is something somebody relayed to me saying, you know, you're doing things, I don't know if you're doing the right things, I don't know if you're making the right decisions, I can't quite see what you're doing. So this is a way of sort of providing that. And those are my problems, like, you know, 3 pretty short problem statements. Again, high level, you know, there's no technical detail in there. There's nothing talking about servers or anything along those lines. I will add a 4th problem, so somewhat, in that I have built this and I am doing it and it's all very successful, but Heroku are ending their free tier, and therefore I am faced with a situation of paying for it. But actually there's a great opportunity to build this in the technology that I'm learning to kind of give me a bit of practice and help me sort of get something in the real world through the technology that I'm learning. Now, I've got my problem, it's fantastic. What's next? Hypothesis. This is where you're going to speculate or have some kind of idea on what you're going to do in order to work towards a solution. This is not the solution, this is the framework of how you're going to get there. And the way that I like to think of it in terms of question is, what is it you're going to do? What is that going to lead to? And therefore, what is the value to the person at the other end? For Project Weeknotes, if I build a web app where I can summarize my week, plan for the next and share that with others, then I will have to take the time to reflect on the week. Therefore, those I share will hold me accountable and take away the insights from my journey. Very short hypothesis. It just sort of talks, again, very top level. You don't want to get down to the details yet. But in that piece alone, it's like you can already go with that and give that to people and see what they say. If you want to test out an idea and figure out, right, okay, what is going to work, what's not going to work, what sparks interest, you can go with that and see how it sits with people. If it doesn't quite sit right with people, then you can rewrite it, go get some more insights, go talk to people, go do some desktop research, go run some surveys, do whatever. But once you kind of get that feedback, you can then put it straight back into here and revitalize it. But once you've done that, you may, again, because this is just for me and a few people I share it with, but I would sometimes like to put evidence in here, some data, some analytics, just to sort of back up these pieces. And sometimes it gets threaded in with the, with that context a bit further up. So for example, if I'm talking about goals, I may be looking at retention, for example. My retention is quite poor. So a goal might be to improve our retention so that we are got more usage within our product or something along those lines, right? It's going to be evidence-based, factual-based, and all those things that are quite useful. But moving forward, we're really going to define what it is now. And this is done in 2 places. The next 2 sections are user stories and acceptance criteria. And what we're looking to achieve with this is a means of telling the story about what the user is going to do and what they're going to get out of it. Now, again, this is a bit like a goal, really. It's written in a very similar way. You write it from the perspective of the user. So as a particular user, I need to get something or I want something so that I end up having something else, right? Or I end up having something more specific. This is normally the way that you write it. That's kind of a common structure. Equally, like with problem statements, write it from the perspective of the user. Don't write them from the perspective of yourself or in a third person, in a means that is quite nebulous, Write it from the perspective of the user. I, blah, blah, blah. So in my user stories, I've got, as a person who reviews my week, I need to reflect and plan every week so I can keep on track with my personal and professional development. As a person who reviews my week, I need to share that with others so that I can have some form of accountability and scrutiny. As a person who reads a weekly review from somebody, I want to see the last few weeks so I can get context so that I can help and comment on the current week. As a person who reads a weekly review from someone reflecting, I want a short and concise overview of what's going on with them so I can have talking points a time where we can converse and offer assistance, critiques, encouragement, and accountability. So that is, again, top level, nothing specific, nothing technical in there. But what we are talking about is, as a person, I'm going to do something and therefore I get something else. Now, acceptance criteria. Well, I could talk a lot about these two sections, but I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible because I don't want to sit here spend an hour talking about just about those two things. The acceptance criteria is sort of your definition of doneness. You are done when you reach these things. And again, it's a sort of a case of be top level. But to a certain extent, you write it almost like a bit of a test. Like, these are the things that I am going to do to make sure that this thing is doing what it's supposed to and it fulfills that purpose and vision. For acceptance criteria, you really want to look at it in terms of there's some form of scenario when a particular condition is met or something is done, then something will happen that delivers value to the user. For project week notes, given I am reflecting on the week that has just passed and planning the week ahead, when I open the app and select new, I can type what I have done, what I didn't do, what I learned, and what I plan to do. So this is kind of the whole structure of the week note, really. I always structure it this way, and it's just a bullet point list of those things. Given that I have reflected and planned, but forgotten to add something or made a mistake, I can add, change, delete anything I've previously created when I select an entry and select edit. So a means of sort of going in and changing things. This happens quite often. I write it out, I forget, and I'm like, I forgot to add that I did that thing. I better quickly go back in, add it in. And given that I want to read somebody's reflections on the week, when I go to the app, I'm presented with this week's reflections and planning. When I scroll past it, I see the previous week and so on. So I'm not looking for, there's no need, it's not going to fulfill any of the context above by having nested notes within a hierarchy. I just want to go with, you open it up, boom. When you open it up, there's the latest ones there for you. You can scroll down to the previous ones and then probably have some access to the older ones in an archive of some sorts. So now that I've done that, I have the work to be done. So this is the bit where we start to get a little bit more technical, a little bit more precise in what we're talking about. This is the piece where it's kind of directly talking to a designer or an engineer or anyone who's going to be involved in building this thing, essentially. And I will write this down as a set of tasks, but also in a way of, it's almost like the tests that I am going to do, a bit like the acceptance criteria, where I am saying, right, these are the things that need to be done. But also it kind of ends up sounding a bit like code, right? So it's very often I will, sort of write it and it ends up being, if I log in, I'll go straight here. If a creator goes to /login, they can log in with an email and password. If a creator logs in, they are redirected to /notes. There is a floating action button to add new week notes for this week. If the floating action is clicked, then create week notes page is opened with the ability to add a title, add a date, add an emoji or emoticon, add the reflections and planning for the week written in Markdown. So it kind of describes it all. I'm not going to go through all of it because it's quite long, but you can again go to the page. I'll put the link down in the bottom again. But yeah, it will sort of describe all these things out. And when you're talking to designers as well, this is a great place to put in, wireframes, sketches. Very often, sometimes I'm screenshot the app already, and then just scroll on it and just write stuff on and go, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. But this is a really good piece to take away and to really use it as a communication piece. And lastly, and this is the final piece, the final section, which is moving forward. And this I found talking to devs mostly. They really like this piece. They always talk about it and say, this is really good. I'm really glad that you add this in. And moving forward is where this particular build could end up. not necessarily where I'm going with it, not necessarily 100%, you know, where we're going to inevitably end up, but a means of saying, you know, say I've got one team and I'm scoping for a team working on feature A, and then there's feature B. But at some point, something in feature A needs to come up in feature B, then this is a great place to say, oh, hey, by the way, if you're in this part of the app, you may want to be able to access this. But we don't know that for certain yet. We need to kind of get more data to get that. Or if you're, for example, doing an A/B test in this scoping, you can say, if A proves to be more popular, then it means this. If B is more popular, then it means this. So you're just furthering on to say this is a little bit ahead. We can't scope this far. It's too vague and too undefined. We don't have enough insights for it. But the work we're doing today, we're hoping to gather those insights to get there. And that is explained in your context when you write the goals, right? So you might write goals to say, we want to run an A/B test to know if people are going to pick this product or that product when they check out in the cart. It's that kind of thing. And that's it, really. That's everything. You know, absolutely go to my website and check it out. If you go back to previous posts, I've actually gone through the different sections and given more examples and talked about how you put these things together a little bit further, so you can pick up some more things from it. But down in the description, I will put the link to the scoping page. I will put a link to my Weeknotes, so you can go have a look and see what it actually is today. But I will also add in my templates for writing a scope. So I just have a Google Doc that just has prompts and stuff like that to help me move me along. And that's it. So I hope that maybe a budding product manager out there is watching this, and I hope that this is helpful. You know, I think in the piece of what this product management job look like, a section of it is talking to people and gathering insights through analytics and desktop research. A section of it is ideation, so taking those insights and trying to formulate something around it. But part of doing that is defining what the problems people are facing are, what are their pain points, and you know, what are the goals as you as a business or you as a person, and bringing it all together. And scoping sort of envelops all of those things. Once you are able to sort of write those things down and pass them off to the team, then they're able to not only pick those things up, but you as a product manager are able to communicate and evangelize those things, because your features are the things that should be built, and you need to be super excited about it. You need to get the team pumped about it. This is a big part of the product management job. But if you have any thoughts or comments or anything that you would like to add, then, you know, stick it down in the comments. More than happy to hear it. You can come check me out on my website. I am at chuffdom on Twitter and GitHub. You can also go to my website at chuffdom.com. And if you want to see me build part 2 of Weeknotes, I will be streaming it live on my channel. Look for the next few videos, because that's what they will be. And I'll be building that and sending it out. So by the time you look at that site, watch this video and look at it, it may be the new version. All in all, thank you for watching. And yes, see you in the next one. Bye.